The story really drives home the point of the seriousness behind abandoning their post at the wall, minutes into the show and the very first chapter with the whole chopping off the head moment. A deserter of the Night's Watch faces the death penalty if caught. The Starks and other northern houses take this so seriously because of their close relationship with the Night's Watch. The brothers may be defending the entire realm, but since the north shares a border with the lands beyond the wall, they are essentially protecting this kingdom the most. The man Ned beheads in the name of justice in Game of Thrones was a brother named Will, who ran from his responsibilities after the traumatic encounter with a White Walker. This is actually a very minor change from how the book tells it. Here, it was the older ranger who was part of the trio that deserted, named Garrett. Not really a big deal making this change, since both would end up dead at the very start. They are both some of the Night's Watch's finest rangers, with a lot of experience behind them. Garrett, or Will, depending on whether you're reading or watching, is the first case of desertion we see because of fear. Many of the other deserters in the story never wanted to be there in the first place. As much as the recruiters of the Night's Watch try and make it seem like an honorable life decision to take the black, it really is pretty shitty.
Everybody knew what this place was, and no one told me. No one but you. My father knew, and he left me to rot at the wall all the same.
Their vow prohibits them from ever leaving this cold and dangerous location, isolated from the rest of civilization in their frozen castles. You can never own any lands, marry, or father any children. Your life is completely dedicated to serving this cause. But while in training, you can decide to call it quits and go home if this harsh lifestyle isn't for you. That is, if you weren't forced to join like the majority of the brothers. In the past, knights may have occupied the ranks, but now it's filled with criminals who avoided their sentence by taking the black instead. This was actually the case for Will. He was a poacher in the Riverlands in a past life. After getting caught, he was given the choice of losing a hand or taking the black. His hunting skills from a life of poaching made him a pretty good ranger though. When a recruiter travels the Seven Kingdoms looking for new blood, their go-to stop is a castle's dungeons, hoping to empty them. Garrett, on the other hand, joined as a young boy. Whether it was voluntarily isn't stated. We do know that he has been a ranger for 40 years, and even lost his ears to frostbite in service. Wildlings never made him run off. It was that encounter with the White Walker that broke him after all this time. In the 6th episode of the first season, we get to see a couple more deserters. Amongst the group of thugs that jumped Bran during his horse riding were some former crows. During my first watch of the show, I assumed they were all wildlings, but I later figured out they were actually once the realm's security guards. Their clothes should have given it away. Strangely enough, they were traveling with wildlings, so my guess is that the deserters, named Stiv and Wallen, were probably criminals before taking their vows. But they do mention the White Walkers, so maybe a little bit of fear mixed in with having no interest to risk their lives for others. Ned Stark did warn Bran that no man is more dangerous. The deserter knows his life is forfeit if he is taken, so he will not flinch from any crime, no matter how vile or cruel.
Shut up! Drop the blade!
No, don't!
Do it!
And he proved to be right, even more so when looking back at the mutiny at Craster's Keep. Frustration and desperation led these former criminals to killing their own Lord Commander and the man who was sheltering them beyond the wall. Now deserters, some decide to leave the keep. Once again, a minor change would be made in regards to their outcome. In the 4th season of Game of Thrones, the Mutineers stick around and are eventually slaughtered by Jon Snow and some of his brothers. In the books, some or possibly all the deserters try to make it south, but are caught by a character only referred to as Colhands for now. Maybe minor change wasn't the right choice of words, because I'm sure some of you guys would consider this an important exclusion. He's an undead character in the service of the Three-Eyed Raven, and sent to guide Bran to him. His devotion to bringing justice to the deserters and his clothing show us he was a former brother of the Night's Watch. The fact that he conceals his identity made a lot of readers believe this could be a zombie Brynden Stark, like in the show. But George Martin, the author, has come out and said that it isn't him. And I'll take his word for it, because that would be a dumb way to try and deceive us, when he could have just kept quiet on the topic. Colhands and Zombie Benjen aren't considered deserters after they begin to serve with Red Raven, because their vow is only valid till their death. The exact words are night gathers, and now watch begins. It shall not end until my death. The Thread Raven was actually a former brother of the Night's Watch. Not only a brother, but a former Lord Commander. We know a lot about his backstory, but there's a huge empty patch in his history after disappearing while ranging beyond the wall. Before Bran pinned the nickname of Thread Raven on him, he was Brynden Rivers, also called Bloodraven, a Targaryen bastard who was feared as a powerful spy master, and with his abilities served as hand of the king for his family. Well, he had no issues taking things a little too far when it came to protecting the realm. Ended up being jailed and then sent to the wall. The fact that he's now with the Children of the Forest kind of hints at him deserting his watch, possibly to learn from them about his Greenseer magic and protect the realm in other ways. Hopefully, we do find out more about why he left the Night's Watch, because the show didn't give us much of anything when it came to his characterization, just a powerful old wizard instructor archetype. Jon almost becomes a deserter when he went to fight the Boltons in order to defend his family, but death saved him from that. And in the show, I guess Sam did leave his watch to never return, somehow becoming the Grand Maester before ever even becoming a Maester. Mance Rayder was once a brother of the Night's Watch, but his situation is pretty unique.
But here you are, a traitor, kneeling before the king beyond the wall.
If I'm a traitor, then you are too.
He was taken in as a child who was living beyond the wall. His father was apparently a brother, but his mother was a wildling. He lived with her in his early life, until rangers killed this group of wildlings. For years he served, until his lack of freedom pushed him away from this group. A wildling woman patched up his black cloak with her treasured red silk after he was attacked beyond the wall by a shadow cat. But his commander ordered him to burn it since their cloaks must be all black. So he went to his original home of Beyond the Wall. A character I've been meaning to talk about for a while now is Darren, a man who joined the ranks around the same time as Jon and Sam did. He was a singer who was found in bed with a lord's daughter in the Reach, and out of fear, she named it rape. So he was sent to the wall, but he kept singing, garnering the nickname of the Black Singer. After Jon becomes the new Lord Commander, he names Darren to the position of recruiter, hoping his talents could win some people over. But at the first chance, he deserts his watch at Braavos, where he would be met by Arya Stark during her Faceless Man training. Having trouble leaving her past self behind her and becoming no one, she kills a newly popular singer in one of the city's alleys. Ned's strong sense of justice really shows itself within Arya during this part of the fourth book. In the last supplementary world-building book that came out about the Targaryens called Fire and Blood, we get an interesting bit of lore about two former Kingsguard members. Under King Maegor the Cruel over 250 years back, Sir Oliver Bracken and Sir Raymond Mallory of the Kingsguard decided to leave his service when the rightful Targaryen heir, Jaehaerys, challenged his uncle. They went over to Jaehaerys' side, but after he became king, Jaehaerys had no interest in having oathbreakers in his service. They had the choice of execution or the wall, so they decided to join the Night's Watch. King Jaehaerys actually sent hundreds if not thousands of men who opposed his rule to the wall during this time. But this gesture backfired horribly. There are 19 castles built along the wall where the Night's Watch operates. But with their dwindling numbers and resources, many have turned to ruin. Since the former Kingsguard members here were of high birth and exceptionally skilled, they were tasked with leading all these new recruits and restore 2 unused castles. Raymond would command Sable Hall, and Oliver, Ramgate. Well, once an oathbreaker, always an oathbreaker. The two used this opportunity to call themselves lord over these castles, and abandon their responsibilities as brother to the Night's Watch. The Stark lord at the time had to get involved to put down these rebellious deserters. Oliver and his men were all executed at Ramgate, and after hearing of this, Raymond tried to escape his wrath by going beyond the wall. This Lord Stark continued his pursuit of justice, and it cost him his life. While in the haunted forest, he was attacked by a group of giants. But Raymond wouldn't be free for long. Some wildlings saw him as a full-course meal. After feasting on him, they sent his head back to the Black Crows. It may have taken a few months, but justice was served, kind of. There are some men who escaped the Night's Watch before ever even making it to the wall. The most notable being Brynden Rivers, aka Bittersteel, the Thread Raven's half-brother, and his rival. This man brought a lot of trouble to his Targaryen relatives, and was somewhat of an escape artist. While sailing to the Wall, his loyal followers ambushed the boat and allowed him to go free to Essos. I go into more depth about this interesting character in one of my older videos about nicknames. Spoilers here, Bittersteel is one of my favorites. I'll leave a link to that video if any of you guys want to check it out. But as for the deserters, I think that sums it up. Hope you all enjoyed this one, and I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for watching.